All right, Asaf,
Uh,
take
Thank
it
you,
away.
Sharit. Thank you. Hey, hi everyone. Good afternoon. In the good old days when we had real events, they always put my presentation after lunch. So it's kind of been challenging to keep, everyone awake. So normally I would use samples and videos, and it's a bit more interactive. But still, I hope this presentation is going to be kind of eye opener and try to keep it as entertaining as possible. That's really part of the intent. Um, but again, thank you for joining. My name is Asaf Lavi. I'm the strategic account manager for Signword. But previous to that, I was actually managing HP's interior decor business segments, business category. And it's certainly one of the fastest growing segments that we're seeing in the printing industry, in the wide format printing industry. And you know, the next 45, maybe 60 minutes, I would like to talk about that and really help you guys as business owners, uh, give you some ideas and some techniques how to scale it up. And I meet a lot of business owners that they may do some graphics and wall graphics or environmental graphics and are doing some sort of interior already, which is great. Here is really about how to take it to the next level, how to look at interior decor as almost like a new business category for your own business, and ideally to equip you with a lot of information, insights and tools, within short period of time. Um, so what I would like to do again before we deep dive on the details, I think it's important to first get kind of a high level overview about the market, about the trends, about the application that we're going to talk about. Um, then I would like to fill you in with a little bit of market trends, and again, I think this is going to help to build a story and to see maybe why this actually makes sense in terms of from a business opportunity standpoint. Um, but really, the most exciting thing is how to make it happen. How I'm as a small or medium-sized shop, how can I take interior decor to the next level? So what I was trying to do here is really to collect a lot of ideas, a lot of best practices, mostly from sales and marketing standpoint. So you could use it as a reference and start go to market and scale your business. I think I'm going to try to go through the entire presentation. If you have any, we have great audience here, but if you have any question, maybe better to keep it towards the end. We should have enough time to take Q&A, but if you really want to jump in, feel free. It's a pretty intimate forum over here. All right, let's get started then. So again, just kind of giving you all the background and looking at HP journey in the interior decor market. So I'm originally from Israel, you may notice in my accent. And in 2010, I moved to our head office in Barcelona in Spain, where at the time, our business was 95% plus signage, signage display. And as a kind of young business development manager, my role was to look for other growth opportunities for HP based on the HP latex technology that at that time. And after doing a very typical HP market research and studies and joining different market associations and going to some trade shows, we put together some sort of business case to justify why and how HP can go after the interior decor market. And again, at the time, we knew nothing about it, and our beachhead market, our bet was around wall covering, digital wall covering. We started to communicate and start building our assets around digital wall covering. And what happened was that even though this was relatively small portion of our business, it was growing pretty fast. And this kind of journey in the first 2 years made us think like, hey, this is actually going pretty well. How about some other verticals? How about some other markets within the interior decor segment that we can approach with the same HP latex technology? So as a result of that, we found ourselves in a kind of a continuous and progressive journey to look at after new markets that HP latex can fit to. And that's how we kind of got after frame canvas and wall decals and window shade and window fashion and home fashion. So that's been kind of a journey that you basically know where you start, you don't really know where it ends. So what I want to start with is, again, when we talk about interior decor, and I think for a lot of people, it means like wallpaper and wall graphics, so which is correct. Um, but there are many more opportunities beyond that. So don't really be worried now about how am I going to do that. It's more about, you know, what you could do, what other applications in the interior decor space we're talking about. So you know, you see this young lady over here with a grandmother, grandmother wallpaper. So as you will see, the market has really shifted big time since what we all, you know, used to think about wallpaper. So what we did here is basically put together a few examples of real projects where interior designers or interior architects have been using digital wall covering or digitally printed wall covering, whatever you want to name it. And you can see that this is being used across the board, whether it's, you know, office spaces, hospitality, hotels, retail stores. I mean, that's you're going to find it everywhere. And I'm going to provide a little bit more data in a few minutes. But this whole thing of digital wallpaper is something that is commonly being used by interior designers and interior architects, whether it's in a commercial space as well as could be in residential space. So that's, again, kind of a little bit about wall covering. Here, what I wanted to emphasize is another trend we're going to talk about is what we call localization, where the interior designers trying to bring a little bit of flavor from, I would say, local flavor to the projects. And you find it a lot in the hospitality project where, to our friends here from Canada, right? So you try to create an environment that you bring some local flavor to that space. And of course, with digital, it's pretty easy. The other segment that actually HP is really dominating today is the canvas prints, wrap canvas. And for us, it all begins with what we call memories, right? So we all, you know, used to or know about taking photos of maybe your families or friends, or maybe, you know, landscape from the holiday, and, you know, send it to whatever Costco, and then you get it printed and shipped to you in a few days. And that's a massive industry. But at the same time, canvas are commonly used in interior, you know, interior spaces. In fact, you know, and every Starbucks has probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 wrapped canvas in the store. So canvas is another great example where customers are using it for interior decoration purposes, whether it's photography, in this case, kind of a multi-photo, multi-canvas setup, whether it's mass art or maybe pop art. Again, this is something that you'll find in a lot of interior spaces to decorate. Another market, which is relatively smaller, but it's a nice and fun niche market, is wall decals. And again, I guess many of you use print and cut or you do some sort of decals, but mostly for promotional. While here, we're talking about wall decals for interior. And it's all about content, and we're going to talk about content in the end, but this is a really nice and fast and easy way to transform a space, whether it's, you know, a small medium business or commercial space, or in this case, you know, it could be like kids room, right? So that's kind of a fun and easy way to twist a space and give it kind of a nice feel. Probably one of my favorite markets is in window shades. And again, don't be worried now about how I'm going to produce window shade. We'll get into that later on. But from a market standpoint, this is probably the fastest growing segment that we are seeing. And interestingly, that this market didn't have much printing before maybe 5-6 years ago, when we started to go after that market. And window shade, maybe as opposed to wall covering, is first and foremost, it's a functional product, right? It has a function in a space to block sunlight or for privacy. However, when we brought printing into the game, now you make the product much more fashionable or customized, or, you know, you can deliver some messages, whether it's branding or some other messages, through this medium. So again, printed window shade is something that it's very custom oriented. It's something that makes a lot of sense for a lot of different spaces, and we certainly see it growing very fast in the last 3-4 years. Another thing, again, we're going to talk about later about the conversation you might have with interior designers or architects. The fact now that you can easily or relatively easily create a story, complement a wallpaper with a window shade or vice versa, this is something which is very disruptive and makes the whole thing much more interesting. And this is something that interior designers, they absolutely love, that they can have this flexibility when they do projects. Uh, this is a segment that we started to kind of, I would say, discover probably about 4 years ago. It's the healthcare market. And it's actually all started when HP sponsored a project in a kids hospital in Barcelona. It's called Sant Joan de Déu. And as you can see over here, we basically wrapped the scary and noisy MRI machine over here with some nice design. You can see some wallpaper, you can see some decals on the ceiling. And essentially, in a few days, we transformed this space. And I think for us, the best feedback or the best reward of doing it was actually the feedback from the hospitals, because the same kids that used to have so much stress and anxiety before doing this exam, medical exam, they actually found it to be now fun because it looks like a spaceship. So some of them actually asked if they can come back the next day to do it again. So by using this interior application, you can really change the experience of the customers. In this case, it's patient and kids. So again, very, very exciting. That's another project that we did a few months after. This was in California, the White Memorial Hospital. Smaller scale project, but again, the idea of transforming a space and making it more patient friendly, that means a lot for those patients. And it's, again, from a printing standpoint, nothing really complex. Wallpaper, decals on the floor, very, very straightforward. All right, let's go with some more ideas. Ceiling. So ceiling, whether we talk about wallpaper, whether we talk about fabrics, these are all, it's an area that some, commercial spaces might use for just to enhance the interior decor. Backlights. This is actually very popular, especially in hospitality places. So we don't talk about, the McDonald's backlit. It's something that it gives kind of a pop to a space. Now we can do it also with fabric, so it could be latex or film, sorry, or on a fabric. Drapery, that's kind of a different type of substrate, but you would never imagine drapery to look so cool and so enhancing when you talk about this kind of high-end lounge over here. When we introduced the HP Latex R series and we brought, rigid printing into the play, that opened some more opportunities. It's probably going to be more niche, but at the same time, when you talk about rigid printing, this is more, high profit, high margin application that, again, you could use and you can complement in a space. So whether it's printing on wood, whether it's, printing on Dibond or some other exotic application. We have customers printing directly on doors. I mean, you can do a lot of fun and crazy things when you have, or if you have the rigid printing capabilities. But again, just wanted to highlight that. Few more examples. Cushions. Again, we can print directly on fabrics with HP Latex. So you could offer like natural cotton-based fabrics to print and decorate the space. And I think last but not least, that's actually very exciting application. These are actually acoustic material, almost like noise canceling, Bose headset that you can see the texture on the fabric. So this fabric was designed to be used as noise canceling. And again, it's making the solution not only decorative, but also very, very functional, especially if you're talking at commercial spaces, offices, and maybe restaurants, etc. All right. Cool. So now let's start getting into business. So we saw some applications that can be addressed, with digital printing. I want to give you a little bit of, the bigger picture of the interior decor market. So when we went, back then and looking to our executive staff, we really identified the interior decor or the digital decor as the next blue ocean. And in a way, when you look at that, it's probably about 3 to 4 times bigger than the sign and display. But at the same time, the digital penetration is yet to come. It's kind of still in an immature phase. And if we only go back, 10, maybe 15 years ago, digital printing was not as commonly used as today in signage, right? It was offset, screen printing, and you see how the market has evolved and the market has changed. And we truly believe that's going to be the transformation that we already see happening. That's going to take place, and it's going to capture larger larger portion of that entire ecosystem. So with that, I would like to share with you a little bit more detailed survey that we did. And again, during those years, we ran a lot of different studies. We talked with a lot of partners, media partners, solution partners, customers. So we have a good feel of what's going on. But at some point, a few years ago, we actually went to the Interior Design magazine in New York, and we requested to run like a tailor-made survey, conducted by HP and the Interior Design magazine, to basically reach out to the design community and simply ask them a few questions about their expectations or experience with digital printing. Okay, so this is some of the responses when we asked them about this whole kind of ecosystem. So the first thing I wanted to share with you is, you might be surprised, but wallpaper is back, and 90% of those interior designers, they say, yes, we do specify wall covering in our project, whether it's digital or traditional. This is something that we commonly use in our project, and I think it's important to capture that. When we ask them, where do you typically use wall covering? So you can see a lot of use in corporate workplaces. Hospitality obviously is big time. Retail spaces. In fact, healthcare and assisted living is something that we see growing. And also, I think it's interesting to pay attention to the fact that a lot of them will actually work on behalf of a consumer. So it's a B2B to C to fulfill like a residential project that they may be working on. So again, this is kind of a nice view of how the market is being split. Now, then we asked them more specifically about their experience with digital wallpaper. And as you can see, and very in line with what we see and feel in the street, is 61% of them say, yes, we do specify more digital wall covering in our project. Again, I think it's a great sign to what's happening in the industry. We spoke a little bit about canvas. So here again, we asked them specifically about frame canvas. And I was personally quite surprised, but almost 50%, 45% say, yes, we do use canvas in our interior project. And again, maybe when you leave this presentation and you go outside and you go to like hotel or some places, you're gonna start looking at those canvas out there. But it's, again, something which is very, very commonly used in different interior decor projects. Another kind of fun, I would say, an interesting insight on what's happening in the industry, and we call it the TripAdvisor effect. So, that we as consumers, our expectation are changing all the time. And in fact, today when we go to, a restaurant or hotel, part of our experience as consumers is the interior decor. It's like, do we feel nice in this place? And what is happening now is that people like me and you are actually rating the space by how much the interior was nice and the overall environment. So this whole thing really drove and driving the renovation cycle to be done much more often. It used to be every 7-8 years. Now it's maybe even 5-6 years. This is of course pre-COVID, but the importance of interior, and you can think of not only restaurants and hotel, but also workplaces. Like you want to make sure you give employees nice environment to work in. So this is really drive a lot of the overall importance of interior decor in the marketplace. Part of what we try to understand is like, okay, this is all cool, but why? What are the root causes for digital printing to grow? And trying to kind of simplify and to minimize, we find two main things. First, that there is a strong demand for custom design. And when we talk about custom, we talk about, from custom scale to custom colors to obviously custom artwork. So from an interior design standpoint, the fact that you can relatively easily now custom your entire project, that has a huge plus. And this is really part of what is driving the growth in this space. The other thing that we are seeing is that those designers are saying, hey, we actually feel even some pressure from their clients to provide more creativity, to provide more outstanding designs. And again, you remember this drapery or some other example I showed, like using digital printing can certainly help to create a wow factor and to have things more outstanding. So again, these things are really, really important to take away. And another thing which we ask those that have been using digital wall covering in their project, like, hey, are you actually satisfied with that product? And almost 80% say yes, we are very or extremely satisfied with digital wall covering. And again, if you get into interior designer mind, the fact you can easily fulfill your dream project or fulfill your customization need, that's something which is very, very valuable for them. And again, it drives satisfaction hub. All right. All right, cool. So I'm good in time. So we talked about the market itself and the applications and the trend. And then the question, okay, how do I make it happen? How can I scale? What tools I should, or action should I take in order to make it happen? So I would like to focus on three pillars. Of course, sales and marketing is going to be the most important, but I do want to talk a little bit about solution and substrate, and in the end, just a little bit about content and artwork. But again, before we start, maybe you ask yourself like, hey, I just opened this small shop, or maybe I'm running my shop, and how can on earth I can compete with all those big guys? How can I have, maybe I have a HP Latex 365, I have a cutter, how can I compete, or what's my value proposition versus, someone else that is selling window shades or wallpaper from those, catalogs or swatch books. So the way we see that, and the way we find our successful customers implementing that is in few ways. First, you could really become the one-stop shop. I mean, all the things that I showed to you, you could possibly do with the one latex device. And if you're not able to do that, you could probably outsource. But the fact that you could provide your clients, those builders or interior designers or architects, almost a complete solution from floor to ceiling, that's something which is very, very unique. The other thing is the customization impact that we spoke about. So you could customize very easily. You don't have any catalog. You don't have dusty swatch books that you carry, from 5 years ago. It's something that you can do on demand and provide this customization. And you might be surprised. The third thing is that a lot of interior designers that I met with, they were actually surprised that there is no minimum order. I mean, and that's something that for years they got used to. But the reality is that you as a print shop, you could provide them sampling, maybe that for the next day, maybe a mock-up, proofs, very short run. So this really opens a lot of opportunities and make you a more unique vendor than just going to a mom and pop wall covering shop that needs to wait or has its own books or whatever. Okay, so let's get started here. How do you promote? So I think one of the things you need to think of is almost like this is a new business. I mean, I have a printer, but I'm not a print shop. I'm an interior designer. I work, or I'm I have another brand that is a interior sign, whatever you want to name it. But think about it mentally as if it was a new business. And part of the thing that you need to start doing is spread the word. So social media is a key in the success. And when we run this study, what we find out is actually 61% of the designers, they actually prioritize or put Pinterest on the first place. So that's their way to learn about new vendors, to learn about new ideas, to learn about new trends. So you could certainly use Pinterest to start promote project that you have been doing, like before and after, or project in progress, and create content around it. So Pinterest will be number one, and then Facebook and Instagram will be number 2 and 3. I got feeling would be that Instagram would be before, but that's the result of that study. But the bottom line is that, again, we have a lot of customers doing that, is start communicating and start building this word of mouth, and showcase what you can do, and just use these social media channels to build your brand around not only signage, but hey, now look at all these beautiful interior decor projects that I've been doing. So social media is going to be key for success. The other thing that we saw customers doing is, featuring maybe a small PR article in Design Magazine. Now, it doesn't have to be something fancy and expensive. It might be something pretty local, so it's not costly, too much. But again, just building the awareness that you are able to fulfill and do interior design project. That's something uh, extremely important. And then featuring an article in Design Magazine could be very, very, helpful and effective. Keeping up with the digital trends. So, all these, what we call YouTubers, bloggers, influencers, this is huge. And in fact, this is like entire ecosystem that you can use. For instance, like influencers, if they're like what we call micro influencers, or, small ones, they would love to do exchange. And, you could maybe sponsor a project for them, and in return, they're going to document it, they're going to write an article about it, they're going to post it on their blog or on their Instagram page. So that's, again, like a handshake or like a collaboration that you could do, and by that, getting traffic, getting awareness of what you can do. Again, depends on your pockets, how they are deep. You can go really modest with really, starting very, very affordably. If you have more capacity or more experience, you can maybe, use some bloggers or YouTubers that have a lot of followers. You probably need to pay for that. But again, this is a great idea to, target those DIY lovers, or interior designers or builders, or people that are in that space of home decor, and, you know, uh, uh, presenting what you can do. Another idea that we had few customers doing is actually sponsoring a TV makeover show. So here in the US, it's obviously very, very popular. Again, it might be costly, but you can sponsor that. You can do like a before and after. And typically our customers said, when every time they were sponsoring that and their name appeared at the bottom of the end of the show, the program, they got a spike of demand afterward. So again, it's a way to get exposure and to get the word spread. Swatch books. Swatch book is critical, especially if you're working with interior designers or interior architects. They like to touch and feel. They would like to see the substrate. They would like to see what's the qualities. So again, it doesn't have to be something fancy. If you're just starting, you could just print some letter size or maybe 12 by 18 samples that you could produce internally. And whenever you have sales call, whenever you have a meeting, you bring those samples over and show what you are capable of doing in-house. Maybe, again, if you have a little bit more money, or down the road, you can make those a little bit more fancy swatch books with some Photoshop, and it's just going to be nicer. But even just those small swatch books, that's something that, samples, that's something that you should have handy. You should be able to show around whenever you have a sales call with prospective customers. Showroom is a fancy word, but in the end of the day, what we found out is a lot of our customers that are just starting, and maybe they don't have the bandwidth to start making sales calls with interior designers or architects. We found out that the low-hanging fruit is actually your existing clients and customers that maybe you have been doing business with for years, and they just simply know that you offer this service, that you are able to provide beautiful wallpaper, or maybe a canvas, or fabrics, right? So first, keep it in mind whenever you have a sales call or a meeting with your existing client, just make sure you tell them that you can not only do the signage at the entrance of the shop, but you can also do like beautiful, few feature walls in their space. So just keep it in mind. But the showroom concept, basically the idea would be that if you have like even a reception or a meeting room, just decorate it. Just make this your visual showcase, that when someone step in and go to this room and say, oh, I didn't know you're doing wallpaper. I didn't know you do this. I didn't know you do flooring. So use it as an example, or use this your own space to showcase what you are capable of. And we have a pretty large customer here in Alpharetta, Benson, that he actually did a really nice project in his entire space. It's a pretty large space. He even actually asked each and every employee that has like office to handpick his own design, customize it, and then even install it on the wall. So every office looks different, but it was fully personalized by the employees. And again, if you walk in his offices, his premises, you cannot avoid it. It's everywhere, and it's beautiful, and it makes you think that, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or I didn't know I can order it from you. So again, this is another space he has inside his premises. So again, keep it in mind. This is something that would be relatively easy done, and just keep it in mind. Lunch and learn. This probably should be like the number one. I just kept it like towards the second part of the best practices. But from that study, what we learned is that for interior designers and interior architects, lunch and learn is probably the most effective way to engage and to learn about new vendors and new products. So if you are starting to make sales calls, the best idea would be just to schedule a lunch. You sponsor some sandwiches, whatever. You walk in for maybe 1 hour. You make a short presentation about your shop, your capabilities. You bring those samples, and you start creating conversation and trust between you and those interior designers or the design community. So again, lunch learn is something that is very common. I would probably start with individual interior designers, or maybe small offices, not like the big contract market, which is slightly different ecosystem. And again, just starting the conversation about, hey, this is what I can do for you from an interior design standpoint. Probably one of the best kept secrets in the industry is what's called independent agents. So again, there is like a mini ecosystem here, that there are independent agents out there that are commission-based, and you can probably find them on LinkedIn. You can find them in some agent portals, and those guys, they're not coming from the printing industry, but they are well connected in the interior design market. So if you're able to hook with an independent agent and basically train him about what you are able to do, and let him or her run the sales for you, and just getting projects and getting the sales in, and you basically pay commission for that. So that's, again, it's a very affordable and kind of not committed way to get sales done. Design shows, again, that might be a little bit scary, and we have customers that went to the HD show, the Hospitality Design Show in Vegas, or maybe the New York Now. These are big, large, and very expensive shows. What I would recommend, once the market is kind of opening up, and I think in some areas you already see some trade shows happening, you could sponsor a really maybe 10 by 10 booth and wallpaper it, and maybe bring again some samples, some collaterals, and start collecting leads, start having conversation with interior designers. And I think by doing it, not only going to sell and build your little funnel, but also having this conversation can help you. What are their pain points? What question do you get? It's going to help you to be a little bit more prepared for the next conversation. So just by engaging with this community is going to help to better understand the language and their expectations. And I think lastly, again, is just maybe sponsoring like a charity project. That's something that obviously it's good from a goodwill perspective, but also that's something that can be exposed. So if you do something in a hospital or school or whatever, in return, you can ask to feature it on your social media or maybe on YouTube. And again, leverage those projects to gain experience and to gain awareness with potential buyers. So again, these are all things that our customers have been doing and you could do. All right. So that was about sales and marketing, and I think I'm seeing some questions, so we can address them later on. But let me move to substrate and solution. And I think moving forward, what I find to be the difference between shops that sell wallpaper to shops that are really vested in interior design is really developing this deep understanding and almost becoming a champion in that industry. And just to give you a perspective, when we started, I mean, we're selling printer, right? So we were very much printer oriented when we just started, because we used to do business with print shop. The only thing they're going to ask you is about, or most cases, is about the printer. When we started to go after the interior design market and offering all those new applications, we realized that just by focusing on the printer is simply not enough. I mean, we need to be able to provide a more holistic view or more complete solution to our customers. And with that, we start to develop what we call the end-to-end solution or the turnkey solution. So if you want to produce wall covering, you want to produce canvas, window shades, we as HP and together with a lot of different vendors or partners, we try to compose this end-to-end solution for you. So now when we talk to buyers or customers, we don't only talk about the printer and the technology, but also what other solution could come with that. So during those years, we really bought we built a lot of assets around this ecosystem. And whether it's from design tools to file preparation to proofing, manufacturing, finishing, installation. I mean, a lot of things really to try to make it as simple as possible for our customers to be focusing on sales and marketing rather than doing a lot of testing and spending time on validation. So we have done this in the vast majority of the things that I showed before. So what I would like to do now is to focus on two things, which I think are more relevant to you as as this audience, is talking about substrate and talking about some environmental and certification in general. So, wallpaper, we all know that it has its own, Hall of Fame in terms of how messy it used to be in terms of installing it, and it was even worse to remove the wallpaper. So, from all this scrapping and removing those wallpaper, now you can find those easy to remove, dry strippable panels that are super easy to take off the wall. So when we got into wallpaper and then later on, window shades, one of our objective was to identify the leading media vendors in each and every segment, and basically, first introduce ourselves and making sure that we are having the right conversation with them, and then starting with what we call some sort of partnership or certification process. So, if we take wallpaper as an example, right, you have a lot of different materials, and as I mentioned, if it was a in-person event, I would show you now a lot of different samples. But whether it's the texture, whether it's the durability, whether it's the type of installation, whether it's a pre-pasted, self-adhesive, maybe magnetic. So there are a lot of factors, a lot of variables that you can take into account whenever you execute a project. So our goal was to come up with or to partner with as many media vendors as possible, so you can address those materials and offer those materials to your clients. Same happened with window shade. I mean, we knew nothing about window shade, so we had to work with some media vendors from the window shade industry, like Vertilux or Pfeiffer or some others, and connect with them, test their fabrics, test it, certify it, and kind of give the assurance that it's working. So my point here is that there is a huge library of materials that have been already tested, already been certified, If you're not familiar with the HP Media Locator that we have, it's a cloud-based solution that is accessible from your printer or from the web. There are many different substrates that are available out there. Again, different price point, different performances, and you can just start by browsing and searching those materials. And of course, if you have any question or you need any guidance, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to give some ideas. The other thing that was essential when we started, so think about latex. This was like generation 2 back then, so it was, let's say, it was okay. It wasn't where it is today in terms of qualities and performance and consistency. It was good enough to do most of the work, but again, nothing to compare to where we are today. So one of the challenges we had is, okay, I see the print, it looks great, but is it going to meet the industry expectations in terms of performance? So that's where we started to do a lot of testing, some in-house. Most of them were done in like third-party labs or together with our media vendors. And this is how we can progressively start to build this portfolio of certifications. So when you talk with your customer, you say, oh, okay, this is flame retardant, this is washable, this has a great light fastness. So going through all those testing certifications and performances help us to build a story and to gain confidence that the print is not only beautiful, but it's also durable and it can meet the industry expectation. So one big achievement we had at the time was about commercial grade wallpapers. So that's something that we tested a lot. When we entered the window shade industry, again, we knew that we have good light fastness, but we just didn't have the industry terminology or the meeting their standards. So we had to do a lot of tests according to their standards, which are mostly coming from the textile industry. So again, going through all those steps, the goal would be to make your life easier and to basically give a proof those prints are suitable for the application. And by the way, we had cases that it failed, or we have to provide additional coating to be able to meet some requirements. For instance, for leather or upholstery, it's a very, very demanding market. So if you take a faux leather and you're going to put it on your latex printer and you're going to scratch it, it's going to be perfectly fine. But if you're going to do, the Hiltons or the Marriott, they have a very, very demanding standard, and that's where you need to coat with certain coating in order to be able to get to this standard. So again, it really depends. It's not only success. We also had some challenges down the road. And then the other aspect of the certification is everything about all the environmental credentials. So again, this is a big thing for HP, especially with HP latex being water-based inks. So the idea is that HP latex inks are good for you as a manufacturer or as a print shop, but also good for the end user because there are no VOCs. We meet the Green Guard Children's School certificate, the Eco logo. So there are a lot of things that are very important, and in fact, we encourage our customers to communicate that in their marketing, communication. So your buyers know that you're using the best technology in the industry for interior decoration application. All right. And then last but not least, content and artwork. And I do need to say, I think it's something that you don't need to be worried about out of the gate or tomorrow morning, but food for thought and something to pay attention on when you start scaling the interior decor business of yours, hopefully. When we talk about content, a couple of things. First, good news and bad news. When we did this research, we found that about 50% of the designers, they will come with their own design to you. So you don't really need to worry about it. But at the same time, the other 50%, they may be looking at you to come up with ideas or provide them some sort of content for their project. So again, something to bear in mind. Now, for you as a print shop, again, it's not the first priority, but it's another way to do two things. First, to differentiate yourself, because now you're not only providing the prints, you're not only manufacturer, you actually have access to content that can help you to differentiate. Plus, it's going to help you to increase the margins and the profits because content is becoming part of your solution, part of your value proposition. So again, you're not just a printing house because there are many out there. You also know a couple of things about content, trends, artwork, design, and that's something that can help you with a conversation you may have with those buyers. All right. So the question come, okay, how do I get content? I'm not an artist. I don't have artists. Maybe you have a graphic designer in-house, but where can I get content from? So content, and it's true, it's a very broad ecosystem. It could be actually very expensive. It might have a lot of rules, but there are really easy way and affordable ways to get access to content, at least to get started with. So let's talk about image banks, licensing, and some collaboration. I think the most straightforward way to get started is just simply by, accessing one of those image banks, whether it's Fotolia or Shutterstock. You can find a lot of pretty good and decent content. Even the one that you can scale to wall mural size, no problem with that. And you can actually do it on demand, so you don't have to really buy everything up front, but you can almost pretend that you have it or you have access to it, so you can show it to inspire your clients. But those image banks are super accessible, typically very affordable, and you can just kind of get started with that. Same but different, as they say in Thailand, right? Another kind of image bank that specializes in patterns. It's a website called Pattern Design. And this one is actually pretty cool because they offer thousands of different patterns. But what really is nice about it is that all those files are vector files, which means that you can easily rescale them and even recolor them. So every design that you see here, let's take, the dolphins here, which are blue, you can make them red, you can make them purple, whatever you want. So by accessing this content, you can easily tweak it to your need in terms of scale and color. I think it's awesome, and it's a very easy way to just provide kind of patterns for different themes. When we talk about licensing, again, that might be scary. People think about, oh, how can I get content from Disney or from National Geographic? And these are really, they're not handy and they are expensive. But there are more easy and affordable ways to get licensing. We have a client, for instance, from UK, Printed Space. He actually licensed from the London Underground. So he's using their contact, basically maps of London or the Underground, for wall covering, for flooring. So again, it's a pretty cool way to just get access to unique content, and typically not too expensive. And lastly here, and that's something I personally strongly believe in, is collaboration. There are a ton of talented people out there. There are people working from whatever Savannah or New York or Philly, and there are some really nice design schools out there. So you could potentially maybe find a local artist or even a student and start collaborating. Maybe they have artwork that you can print. Maybe you can collaborate. They can create even your own kind of limited edition. When you have a client, you can say, hey, I'm working with those artists. We have a nice gallery of designs that we can custom for you. So by having this conversation and having in your arsenal a few local artists, they don't have to be local, actually, it could be anywhere, but local just make it a little bit more easy maybe and authentic. But by collaborating with those artists and surface designers and graphic designers, again, if you're going after someone who is relatively young, it can really open up a lot of opportunities in terms of content, and it's probably going to be quite affordable. So let me sum up before taking questions and see if you have any question to me. So I mean, to summarize, I think first we are seeing very clearly this is a very fast-growing market. It's a massive market in scale. Especially you see even in the COVID, you see a lot of DIY, you see a lot of projects going on. So it's growing and it's going to keep growing. So this digital portion of it is something to pay attention to. The other thing is much more profitable, and one of the reasons I didn't talk about it before, but it's not something, it's not a campaign. It's not like you're running a campaign which is temporary and you have some marketing dollars for that. It's something that is more permanent. People, business owners are spending a lot of time, money, and thought about how they want their space to look like. So they are not as price sensitive as the typical sign customer. And this really helps to, again, bring the profit up. And again, one of the things that I also did mention is that in many cases, in those typical projects, the number one question you need to ask is, what's your budget? Don't make a quote before you understand the overall budget of the customer, because you could potentially price it a little bit higher than you thought because he can afford it, right? So just be aware of that. It's different mindset, it's different expectation, and this really helps to increase the profit, generally speaking. The third thing is, and I think it's essential, I mean, we as HP, we build a lot of assets for you guys to use. And whether it's myself, that I have quite a lot of experience with this industry, but a lot of tools, a substrate, solutions, partners that you could use. And of course, you're going to have learning curves. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to, maybe your first wall mural is going to fail. But we are here to support you. And again, there are a lot of assets that you could use out of the gate and not spend too much time on sourcing or searching for a solution that you can use right away. And lastly, that's my personal experience, I think it's fun. It's a really fun market. It's creative. It's aesthetic. It's growing. So all those years that I've been dealing with that, I really had a lot of fun, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy it at least as much as I did. So I really strongly recommend to start looking at that and build your own kind of strategy or thoughts on how to implement and scale it. So with that, that was my part. Again, if you are interested, if you are you want to set up like time for us to discuss one-on-one, just to brainstorm or strategize, or hit me with a lot of questions, feel free to do that. And yeah, well, we are here to support you, and hopefully you find it useful. So I think we have some questions. I'll see here in the chat. Let's see. All right, can we have, do you guys want to jump to ask questions, like unmute yourself, or I don't mind answering questions, or you prefer to start with the chat? All right.
We did have one question. Can we have copies of these photos to use for marketing purposes?
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna go through the chat question, and then if anyone has other question, you feel free either to write or to just to unmute yourself. So I would say yes and no. But so first, I can send to you this slide deck for your use. What we have, we actually created a library of Photoshops. Not all of them are in this presentation. Some of those are actually customers' photos, so you're not allowed to use them. But I have another library that I'll be happy to send to you, Shari, or you can email me. And then basically, they were designed to help customers to kind of enhance their website. So you feel free to use them. We have their wall covering, canvas, window shades. So yeah, you could feel free to use them for your own marketing purposes. Okay, there was, I hope I was loud and clear, as someone was asking about distortion.
I could hear you on my end, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay, maybe someone had the.
Yeah.
How can we access HP Media Locator? Okay, the HP Media Locator is through the Print OS or through your front panel. But even if you just like Google HP Media Locator, you could log in and get there and see all the different media that are tested and certified. And you have like different categories. So you can look for like wall covering, you can look for durable textile, and of course banners and self-adhesive and others. But yeah, so basically Google that, or through the PrintOS, or through your front panel. Window shades. What material? Let me explain it here. What material can we use? Can we print on the 365? Okay, so window shades. I mean, I would say really the good news is that when we started to go after that, we found out that HP latex as a print technology prints beautifully on the vast majority, maybe I don't know, 95% of the materials that the industry is using. So all those prints that we have been doing are on materials that are, you know, commonly used by the industry. So they were not, you know, designed for digital printing or for latex. These are like off-the-shelf materials. These are typically mesh materials, so porous media. It could be anywhere from 1%, 3%, 5%, or I think up to 10% light penetration. So that's like what the industry is using. As for the 365, technically yes, you need to use the ink collector to, you know, to collect all the excessive ink. The only problem with the 365 is the width, because most of the substrate for commercial spaces are going to be 98 or 126 inches wide. There are some materials that are going to be 54 and 64 inches, but they're more difficult to find. So in that case, if you, again, if like it doesn't fit exactly your project needs, you know, you could outsource, and we can help you to find someone that can print it for you on wide format 3.2 meter printer. But there are some substrate, I think Versadyke, they distribute some really nice window blinds materials, which are narrow format, I mean 64 inch wide. So there are some options out there. Do you still support HP wall art? Any new development of that? So yeah, HP wall art is still supported. It's actually part of the PrintOS. So again, if you're not familiar with the PrintOS, it's a broader kind of cloud-based solution to host many different applications and solutions for wide format. One of them would be wall art. Yeah, during those years, we actually added some. I don't know when was the last time you kind of took a look, but there are some more applications now as part of the wall art, and there is also a signage suite. So the wall art, the concept of wall art is now used also to produce signage. So you know, you can upload a file, you can visualize like a roll up or a banner or flow graphics. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and it's been developing in the last few years. So I would encourage to take a look. Can we print upholstery on the 365? How is it the washability? Okay, so upholstery, you have both fabrics and faux leather. In both cases, the answer is yes. Is yes, but meaning on fabric, we have one particular partner. It's called DuraVibe, and they have like treated cotton treated natural fabrics that are actually beautiful, really soft, really nice, that they just basically put like a secret sauce on the material, so it gets really good bonding and good performance. So DuraVibe is a great solution that you could use, and it's going to be washable, I would say, to some extent. So it's not like dye sublimation that it's fully washable, but typically, you know, you're looking at maybe 4, 5, 6 washes that you can do with that material or with that brand, the DuraVibe, and that's one solution. Most upholstery is going to be more like synthetic leather or faux leather. The answer is yes. So there are some media vendors that sell this upholstery materials. In terms of performance, it's typically going to be not washable but wipeable. So you just kind of, if you have a stain or you have like a you know a spill on upholstery, you just kind of wipe it off. And then the other thing is, I would say again, I'm going to be conservative in terms of performance. When you get to printer it and use it, it's not going to be meeting the official US commercial grade performance. However, if you're going to scratch it and be even a little bit aggressive with that, the ink is not going to peel off. So it really depends on where this is going to be installed and how much you need to protect the print. If you're looking into really more high-end and more commercial grade, we actually have a client that have the coating solution for that, so I'll be happy to refer you to him. And then, do you have a flyer or something to show environmental and other certification that we can get to show customers? Yeah, there is. I think I have something that I can send out, but generally speaking, if you kind of Google HP Latex environmental certification, or just look at the HP Latex webpage, there is a lot of information out there about that. I need to see if I have the latest flyer about the environmental credentials that we have. I believe I have it. But yeah, it was, in a way, it was designed to help you guys to be able to use it and to communicate it when you talk to customers. Any other questions, concerns, thoughts?
I have a question that came to me directly. Will you be at the Sign World convention?
I hope so. I mean, actually, I'm planning to be there. I personally, we as HP now, all the guidelines are changing because the numbers of COVID are growing. So we don't have a yes or no answer, but we know that the numbers are not promising in terms of having HP exhibiting. But I'm going to be there, and I would love to meet with each and every one of you in person, and actually going to bring my swatches so we can talk more specifically about materials and solutions for those applications. So I would love to connect in person at the convention.
Do we have any other questions? You can go ahead and type in the chat or unmute yourself, either way. And like Asaf said, if you want to schedule any one-on-one sessions, you can contact him by emailing him. You can also contact me and I can set something up with you guys, between you guys. So either way works. So any questions, last minute questions here?
Yeah, just to add, I've done several one-on-one sessions after the previous webinars, and for the local guys, someone that is in the maybe Atlanta Metro, I would love to meet in person as well, like to visit your shop and meet over there. I've done it as well. So again, if there is anything we can do on our side to help you get started or scale, I'll be happy to do it. All right, so if there aren't any more questions, so I'm here, email away if you need anything. And thank you, Cherie, for hosting me. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. And I wish you all a great weekend.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you,
Thank you.
Asaf. We'll see you soon.
Bye,
Have
everyone.
a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.